Giving all praises to the Most High and Christ. I am your brother, the God One, and coming with you with another show, Kings and Priests. And what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about policing in the hood. Are we over-policed? Are we abused by the police? We're going to be looking at different scenarios to look and examine that. So let's bring on our host. And we're going to start with the brother Zach today. Brother Zach, how are you doing today?
Hey, shalom, everybody. Most High, in the name of Christ, bless you all. Good morning and or good afternoon and or good evening. It is always good to be back. And of course, all praises to the Heavenly Father in the name of his son, Christ. And definitely, I'm looking forward to examining this topic according to the scriptures.
All right. Thank you, brother. Good to see you too. And we're going to move over to our brother Ernie. Brother Ernie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, brother, and giving all praise to the Most High for allowing us to come together yet again for another episode of Kings and Priests. Lord willing, what we dive into will be edifying for our audience, and just glad to be here. So, yeah, giving all praise to the Most High.
And of course, we got to go to our sister Umi. Sister Umi, how are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. I am doing well. All praises. Just glad to be here another week.
All praises. So we're doing a show on police. Do you think we need someone that has experience as a police officer to help us deal with this topic?
That would be helpful.
Yep.
Well, today we do have someone, please. He's in the church. He's one of the church elders, state police, inspector, BT undercover, as they say on the streets. We have the brother from the bar.
Oh, wow. That's a hell of an introduction, bro. My kind of music, too, bro. You got to be pegged all the way around.
So, Brother Kakumgabar, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background?
All right. I was born in the 60s, grew up in the hood. And why they have me on this show is because I ended up dealing with working for the State Police of New York for 30.5 years. I was a uniform trooper for 11 years, an investigator for about 7 years, and a senior investigator for the latter part of my career for 30-something years altogether, totally. I worked narcotics, gangs, and undercover operative groups for 19 years of my 30-year career. So it was a lot of things going on that we would deal with. Street level, mid-level to higher level narcotics. I worked with federal task force, federal agencies, doing all kind of undercover operations and drug investigations. Like I said, I was a state police officer for 30-something years. That's it.
Okay, wow, that's quite a long career. I mean, people would just barely do 20. You did 30 and change.
Well, let me just add one more thing. I'm not an agent.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. So we want to jump right into it, and to come Gabar, we want you to go first. We all know the curses in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. So do you think how our people are policed is a direct result of that?
The curses, yeah. Well, it is based on the curses, but it's not. A lot of people want to put it in the lap of law enforcement, but it's not in the lap of law enforcement. It's solely on the responsibility of the people that have told the Most High to kiss their backside. Because he told us that in Romans 13, that the powers that be are not a detriment or against those that are good. The powers that be are a detriment and a power against those that are evil. So even in our cursed condition, when we do what's right according to him, starting with repentance, that we are covered. So what has happened over time, just to put it plain, people have lost every bit of common sense and understanding how things work. And they're being used by the media to push this anti-police, anti-cop. Every time a black or brown person walks outside, they got to look over their shoulder because the cop's going to come down and rain down on them hell. That's just a farce. But then when you look, especially in the world I was in, you telling me that, oh, it's a conspiracy and these things are against you. Well, why are you slinging dope and killing one another like at the rates that you are? Because that's going to bring the heat down. And to be quite honest, in the group that I worked in, especially when I was a supervisor, we really didn't mess with you until it was a lot of drama and a whole lot of foolishness. And that's when we reined in the forces of the powers that be on individuals.
Okay, Sister Umi, same question. We know about Deuteronomy 28 and the curses in the Bible. Do you think our people they're getting it rough by police?
Yes, sir. And I think it's to what Mr. Kamgabar was saying, it's our fault, right? And so that's always been our issue. It's always been our issue as followers of Christ, as Israelites. We don't like to examine ourselves. We don't like to see what we're doing, right? We always want to point the finger, and it's easier done, which is why Christ goes into that when you look into Matthew 7 regarding judging, but having to take the beam out of your own eye before you take the mote out of your brother's, right? And I'm just going to go to Proverbs chapter 3 really quickly, and I'm going to look at verse 1. And I'm going to read the first 2 verses. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. So because a lot of us choose not to keep the commandments, we don't get that peace that they add to our life. We don't get that comfort. What we get is the roughness. What we get is in situations, stuff that is unjust, right? Which is not like every time you come across a police officer, you're just going to have this like unrighteous thing. No, we magnify that a lot of times. Not saying that it isn't happening, because it is, because it's in those curses. But yeah, so we go through things because we choose not to listen and we choose to continuously sin.
All right, Brother Ernie. Black people in the Black community, or the police just crazy, or is it a curse, or we deserve it?
Well, maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But as the brother Kakumbabar said, the curses in Deuteronomy chapter 28 are there, but I'm going to start with one other scripture that sort of explains what's going on with us, because we find ourselves arrested disproportionately compared to other races, other people groups. But there's a reason for that. Some of it, false arrest, false incarceration, but also it's a byproduct of how we choose to live our lives and the choices that we make, as the Sister Umi said. So at the heart of it is we've decided to walk away from keeping the commandments. And in Matthew chapter 22, verses, I'm going to read 36 to 40, where Christ says, because Christ was asked this question, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, that thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So when you come to how we treat each other, you know, we hate each other based on the statistics, because of every person of color, every brown person, every black person, every African-American person that's murdered, it's more likely that we are murdered by someone that looks like us. And so that number, in terms of the murders that are committed, the robberies that are committed, they are disproportionately larger in the Black community, in our community, than other people groups. Now, people will say, well, wait a minute, white people commit more crimes than Black people. That is true, but I'm talking proportionate to the amount of people in a particular people group. So yes, there are fewer arrests made of Black people, fewer that are charged with murder or robbery, but in terms of the amount of population that we represent, it's significantly higher as a percentage among us than it is for other people groups. And that's because, again, we've decided and we've chosen to walk away from the commandments. They apply to us. We can't do other things that other people do. There are certain things that apply to us because the covenant was made with us. And because we chose to break it, we are seeing the consequences of that with higher incarceration rates, higher arrest rates, etc.
Okay, Zach, same question. Are we cursed? Or is it our fault? Or is the police just doing too much?
Well, I would say that it's a combination of the first two. Two scriptures that I would like to read quickly. The first scripture is in Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 7, where it says, when a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. So now let's look at that as it pertains to the police presence in our community and the police interaction amongst us in our community. If our ways as a people, not one person here, or one person there, or one family here, or one family there, but as a people, if our ways were pleasing to the Most High, in other words, if we were doing what the Most High had instructed us to do out of the scriptures, obeying him, then there would not be incidents of our people getting smacked upside the head or getting tased or being shot, because we would be in line with the Most High. We would be in line with his Christ in obedience by keeping the commandments. And like the scripture says, when a man's ways please the Lord. In other words, our doings would be pleasing to the Lord, or if our doings were pleasing to the Lord, then there would not be the incidents of police interaction, the negative police interaction that we're having in our communities. The other scripture that I wanted to read is Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 22. For my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are Sodom's children. They have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. This is not a good representation that the Most High is making of us, but nonetheless, it's true. For my people is foolish. They have not known me. In other words, we have not submitted ourselves to the authority of the Most High and keeping his commandments. Going further, they are Sodom's children. They have none understanding. We have no understanding of the scriptures. We have no understanding of the will of the Most High and his Christ. They are wise to do evil. We know how to break the commandments. We know how to get over on the system. We know how to take advantage of systems. But to do good, but to repent and follow Christ and submit ourselves to the authority of the Most High and keep his commandments, they have no knowledge. So before we can point the finger at everybody else, especially the police and the tactics that they use on us for our disobedience, we have to look at ourselves and what we're doing. And in many cases, what we're not doing.
Okay. We're going to swing it back to you, Kakam Gabar. I know that sometime in your career that, you you did traffic policing when pulling people over. So what I want you to explain to the audience is what should they do when they're stopped by the police?
Well, I'm going to tell you what they shouldn't do. And this has happened to me more than once. A black person look at me with my big black self coming up to their car saying, you just stopped because I was black. You're starting off on a wrong step right there, right? So what it is this. When you in law enforcement, you out there doing a job. And a lot of times, depending on the personality of the police officers, because, we're all human, the thing is you just trying to get the encounter done and over with as safe as possible. So what you shouldn't do is you shouldn't do anything to alert or alarm or make the officer suspicious about anything that's going on within that vehicle based on that traffic stop. So politeness is a lot of times, paramount. Even when you feel that the officer has been a little aggressive, the scriptures tell us that a soft answer turneth away wrath. And I'm going to talk about that point based on the scriptures because the scriptures give us the guide on anything that we encounter. However, politeness is key. A lot of times, officers aren't stopping you just for no reason. There is a reason. Yelling and screaming and trying to litigate your case on the side of the road is never going to be a pathway to maybe getting out of the ticket or the incident or issue that the officer stopped you. Always try to use politeness, respect, not yelling, screaming, or trying to litigate or argue your case right there about what you didn't do and you don't even know why you stopped. Those are kind of keys, first and foremost, that you should have an understanding of. Now, if you're riding dirty, those things apply too. Because I'm pretty sure that people, I worked in the area of Rochester, New York, upstate New York, where it was an area with a lot of outlaw bikers, mainly the Hells Angels. Those were some of the most polite encounters that I've ever encountered in law enforcement. And what are you going to do when a person is nicing you to death, right? And 9 times out of 10, something's going on, but you can't make something out of nothing. So this is what I'm saying to you. It goes a long way because the officer usually is going to respond to how the encounter goes initially by the way you react towards him and the traffic stop.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Now, it's a bit of a different question for the rest of you is, one, have you been stopped by the police and how did you handle it? So let's start with Zach.
Have I been stopped by the police? Yes, I have on more than one occasion. How did I handle it? Pretty much like how Brother Kakongabar described it. You want to make sure that I was calm, number one. Whatever he asked me for, and it's usually my driver's license. Okay, here you go, officer. Okay. If I'm going to be fined, of course, I accepted the fine. I didn't try to argue with the officer, or I didn't try to outlaw the officer, if that makes any sense. It's about providing the information that the officer is requesting of you. And of course, as Kagongabar said, you do it with a degree of politeness, you do it with a degree of decency, because at the same time, you put yourself in the officer's shoes. You would want somebody to treat you like you would want to be treated. So with that being stated, in the cases that I've had interaction with law enforcement, I tried to make sure that my dealings were right, my dealings were polite, and I'm providing the information that's requested of me, and not trying to smart mouth the officer or curse him out and things of that nature. No, not doing that. No.
I'm glad you said that, Zop, because by the end of the show, you may get your opportunity.
What, to curse officer out?
No, not curse the officer out, but put yourself in the officer's shoes.
Oh,
But let's go into the sister Umi. Have you ever been stopped by the police, and how did you handle it?
I was stopped by the police like a couple of years ago. I've never gotten stopped for like a what's it called, like a speeding ticket or something like that, right? I had recently bought a new car, and I had gotten my plates from far up north, and I guess it looks very different than how the transitional plates would have looked down here, I guess, or the temporary plates. So they had pulled me over. They didn't tell me what it was about. I heard them on the walkie, like reading the paper from the plate in the back. I don't even know if I guess they asked for something. I don't know. And then they were just like, okay, ma'am, you're fine to go. Like, so, but I just handled it as I'm supposed to handle it, like calm, peacefully. My understanding, and then I know that like they were Black men, so my understanding is automatically, no one is trying to go to their job to die. No one is trying to go to their job to have like a stressful situation. Do you have certain people like that who are just demons? Yeah, but typically the average person, literally, they don't even, most of the time the average person doesn't even want to go to work, like, so they just want to go to work, get their job done. And so I stayed there. Was I nervous? Yeah. I think it's just the anxiety of the persona around, like police officers, and then there are men, and I'm a woman, and so on and so forth. But yeah, and my mindset, and I'll just read this really quickly. My mindset typically goes here. Isaiah 26 verse 3. Thou will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. And so whenever I come across people, whether it's like sketchy looking people, police officers, I try to always keep my mind here, right? Because when I trust in the Heavenly Father, when my mind stays on what it's supposed to stay on, which is that soft answer turns away wrath, which is be ye kind and tenderhearted, which is to be as wise as a serpent, so on and so forth. Peace comes from that, right? The only time that I get out of character is when I do the opposite of Second Timothy chapter 1, which goes into the Most High has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So when I go into the spirit of fear, I no longer have that peace. And typically that's when we start getting out of pocket, raising our voices, getting, filled with anxiety, and then going off because we no longer stayed in the mindset of the Heavenly Father.
Okay. Ernie, you've been waiting for a long time. You're in action with the police. Have you ever been stopped by the police? And what'd you do? Told them you know your rights?
No, that's no, glad to be waiting. Some really good responses, and there's a lot of meat still left on this bone. I've been pulled over multiple times here in Georgia. When I used to live in New Jersey, pulled over a couple of times, and without incident. A couple of times I may have gotten a ticket for speeding, but I have a really good driving record. But for the most part, most of the stops have been, just, hey, this is going on, or, a warning or something like that. And one stop in particular, I'll always remember. It was before I was married. My soon-to-be wife and I, we were spending some time together that evening. And so I was driving from her house, but I was driving her car because my car was acting up. So I left it at her house, driving back to where I was living, driving her car, which was an old Oldsmobile, and the steering was really bad. And so sometimes it swerved, and you really had to be careful. You had to get used to it. So I'm driving home at about 1 o'clock in the morning in Fayette County in Fayetteville. And so, that's a area or a county where people say, oh, you got to watch out for the police. And so I'm driving home. I'm about halfway home, get pulled over by the cops, 1:30 in the morning. And so the police officer said, do you know why I stopped you? I said, no, honestly, I don't. And I was very nice. He was very nice. And there's no reason for me to get upset and said, I didn't do nothing, But anyway, he said, well, your car was swerving a little bit. It looked like you were going out of your lane. And I said, oh, yeah, this car, the steering is terrible. I'm driving my fiance's car back home. He said, did you have something to drink? Have you been drinking tonight? I said, yeah, I had one drink like 3 hours ago when we were out. He said, where do you live? And I said, I gave him the address. He's like, okay, well, just be careful out here. It's a white guy. And so I wasn't nervous. I wasn't thinking I'm going to get arrested. I had no idea why he pulled me over. But when he explained, it's like, okay, well, this is the reason because of her car. And so, he said, just be careful. And I said, hey, look, you be safe too. And went on home. He went about his business, and that was it. And the way that my parents raised us, they didn't raise us to be afraid of the police. They raised us to be cordial and polite and to respect the laws. And so it's very similar to Romans, the 13th chapter, verses 1 and 2. And, my parents didn't say, hey, look, read Romans, the 13th chapter, verses 1 and 2. But the instructions they gave us were in line with this. And so verse 1 of that chapter reads, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. I've seen a number of YouTube videos, and I'm sure the brother Kakumgabar could attest to this in his own history on the police force, that some of these cops pull people over and they have demons on them. And it's like, well, you did this. No, I didn't. They get into arguments. They have to get tased. They have to get handcuffed and arrested. And they're going on and on and on. You think either who raised them or what kind of demon is on this person. But my experience has been, I've been pulled over multiple times, never had any issues, never been George Floyd or anything like that. And I've been very polite and respectful to the police. And they've been very nice and kind to me. So that's my experience.
And before we get into the second half in the show, and this is a question particular for Kakumgabar, but you guys can join in if you like. Do our people make ourselves fit the description?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do. I can go back to the Sky Pager days and the gold chain days. That's how old I hate to say this, but that's how old I am. When everybody had we used to call them we knew because, we like cops that I knew, even, some of the black and brown brothers that was on the force that I would pal with and work with, and or even white guys at that time, they knew that the trends that sometimes we put upon ourselves, we make ourselves look suspicious, although that look is not all, but it's a part of it, especially when you're in law enforcement. You have to have the eyes and your ears open and pay attention and be observant. So when I see a guy at the time walk in a restaurant that I'm in and I'm working or not working, and he's got Dookie gold chains on, 4 Sky Pagers, all going off at the same time, what is he screaming at the time when that fad was out? That he's a what? Drug dealer. Now, sometimes kids would get caught up and they would just, follow the trends. But those are things that's not stereotyped. It's not racist. It's an observation. See, this is where people lose their common sense. We make simple observation. That's part of good policing. Something that seems out of order or something that seems related to is something that you look at. So when I see that guy with 4 Sky Pagers, and I don't even know if you guys, well, I know some of you guys might know the term Sky Pager. I know Sister Umi is sitting there going, what the hell is a Sky Pager? Right? And you see the Dookie rope chain, right? Gold chain and all the flossing and Sky Pagers just buzzing off the Of course, you fit the description, right? Now, let me just say this. I grew up with a kid, and I won't mention his name. He was a big-time drug dealer. And he knew me. We knew each other very well. And if he saw me out, probably to this very day. He would buy me dinner and buy me a drink or whatever, right? But this dude drove raggedy cars, right? Had no drama. I know of cases where his little network got ripped off of over $200,000. Did he retaliate? His mindset was, hey, this is the price of doing business. And I've never seen this dude get arrested, right? He made sure he did not fit the description. You understand? So this is what we have to understand. And it's like that with anything, any scenario. If you don't want to be looked at as a hoe or a hooker, don't do things that are synonymous with hoes and hookers. That's for you young ladies, right? If you don't want to be looked at as an effeminate man, as a man, don't do things that would stipulate like painting your fingernails and proudly doing it. And doing those things and saying, oh, that's not right that they say that about me or assume that. Because this is how you fit the description. It's real easy. Cops and robbers is not as complicated as people make it, right? There's things that you see and understand and knowing trends and what people do and how they do it. And if you fit that description, you come under the radar. And that's just as simple as that. And our people have what? A serious problem with that.
Now, I remember being in MP school and talk about fit the description. We had to do the shoot, no shoot. You see two black brothers. I was like, yo, they fit the description. And I was right. They pulled out the gun, pow, pow. I shoot them. But it's the white girl in the corner had to flip an Uzi. Like, oh, damn, I didn't see her. So that's a big thing about fitting the description and not fitting the description. And it goes in the dress code and how you dress and how you carry yourself in politeness. But we just want to remind viewers, please like and subscribe to the show, share. You got any comments, please comment in the show. You can email us or call us. That would be greatly appreciated. Now, Kakam, I know you're in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a scenario that we're going to look at that's in Alabama. Like, is this a good stop? Did the police go too far? And what could a gentleman done better? Let's see. It looks like he's getting tased.
Yeah, I know this scenario.
Steve. I ain't doing, bro. I got gun right there. I'm not doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying, what you saying? Oh, yeah, for? I'm not. Oh, my God.
Stand up. Right there on the front of the car. Stay still.
I ain't doing, bro. I got gun right there. I'm not doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying, what you saying? Oh, yeah, for? I'm not. Oh, my God.
Go.
Okay. Down. Oh, my fuck. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
You want it again?
No, man.
Shut the fuck up. You was big and bad. Shut your up.
You muted. Did that one you muted?
Oh,
go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, Kakam. Good stop, bad stop. What could have been done different?
Well, I know a little bit about the story. It wasn't nothing that gentleman could do at that time. I'm surprised that he didn't react, because it would have made it worse for him, because they would use that as an excuse. And for those that say, well, you didn't see what happened before the tape, there's no justification for what that woman was dealing with as a police officer. And it's almost embarrassed to say, she represents something that I used to deal with. But, you have unfortunately, and sometimes in smaller departments, like in the case of this situation, you do have corrupt cops, and they need to be dealt with. And they need to be dealt with swiftly. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, civil rights violations, so on and so forth, she needs to be thrown under the jail. However, that's not the majority. Those are the ones that get caught on videos. But they don't catch the million of encounters that normally happen between cops and civilians, I even hate to put it that way, police officers, they never capture those, because if it was what this was the norm, you wouldn't be safe as a black or brown person walking down the street. But that's the narrative that they try to push. So you can't really do anything when someone's dead set on evil. And that's what that woman, I believe her husband was involved in the police department too. And, it was a small insular kind of like thing within that police department. And from what I understand, that it is a case of civil rights violations, so on and so forth. What's going to happen or what's the outcome of it? If it's been adjudicated already, I don't know.
I'll chime in. I think it's important what the brother brought out in terms of people don't see the millions of encounters that police officers and law enforcement have with people of every race. And there are a few, just like in every other situation, unless you're in the mob or something like that. But in every situation, every profession, there are always bad apples. In my profession, in law enforcement, Sister Umi, if she's a teacher, because she's a teacher, there's some bad teachers. Are all teachers bad? No, of course not. And so it's unfortunate that the bad apples get the promotion in terms of, if there's a video, then, hey, let's have this make the rounds across the news outlets, social media, etc. I recall a few years ago when Black Lives Matter was at its peak, and there was this whole defund the police issue. Then, but people were saying, wait a minute, most of the police officers in our neighborhoods are good. They're helpful. They engage with the community. You may have a few bad apples here and there, and they should be prosecuted. And as the brother said, held under the jail. But those are not the majority of the police officers. Now, people go by their own personal experiences. My personal experience has been, hey, police officers have been kind and respectful to me. I've been kind and respectful to them. And so times when I should have gotten a ticket or should have gotten cited, they're like, oh, just give you a warning, just, be careful. And so grateful for that. But the thinking is that every single police officer is out to get us. And that is not the case, including ones that look like us. How does that make sense? But, you will have some bad apples, and they will get the majority and the lion's share of the coverage, because that's what sells. People love nonsense, and they love to consume nonsense and drama, etc. So, a cop playing tag football with a bunch of kids in the neighborhood, that's not going to get coverage. That's not going to get talked about on social media. But somebody being tased, like this guy was, by this woman who, shouldn't be a police officer if that's the case, that's going to get the coverage. And so the good situations far outnumber the really bad situations. But I'm tracking right along with the brother and what he said. He should know. He's been in police work and law enforcement. So, but even from my perspective, I know that most police officers do good work.
Okay. Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
I'll say this, and I'll talk about a couple different things. The first thing I want to say is we have to remember that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, right? And so we're dealing with a lot of spiritual stuff, a lot of spiritual issues, right? And so those spirits understand that they can pinpoint certain things for people to focus in on. Because let's be real, it's always been a divide, let's just call it for what it is, between blacks and whites, right? Between colored folks and whites. It's always been that. I grew up in a city where it was divided. My city, I'm in my 30s. My city did not integrate until my father was 10 years old. When my mother was a preteen, the movie theaters and stuff were still segregated, colors on top, whites on the bottom, so on and so forth. So that spirit is still there in the city where I reside. So that's just what it is. So I was taught and brought up in a situation where you be respectful and kind, but you understand that they don't like you and you don't like them. That's just sort of what it is. So when So when these type of videos are coming out, understand and notice what typically is highlighted, because they're not showing the police officers, like it was just said, who are community policing, right? Which is even what we're taught in college, which police officers typically are supposed to do, like getting good with the community, just interact, deal, be normal people so that the community can trust them, right? So just be mindful of the objective that is consistently being put out there. Why? Because it changes our mindset. When I'm seeing that, as soon as an officer comes to me, I'm immediately being filled with anxiety, which means I'm no longer dealing in my right mind. I'm now reactive. I don't know what to do. And so I'm doing carnally what my mind automatically goes to. So just be mindful of that. Like, Satan is at play at all times. On the other note, I want to put in the thing of, and Mr. Kakam had addressed this some earlier, how the brother interacted, right? Because we look at something like that and we automatically think, well, if it was us, I don't know what I would do. And how do you deal in that situation? And we have to stop diminishing the power of the Heavenly Father, right? And so I'm going to read Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 8, because this is how we handle it in those type of situations. Push come to shove, you're ever in that type of situation, right? If thou seest the oppression of the poor and violent perverting of judgment, injustice in a province, marvel not at the matter. That goes if you're the one who is the judgment is being violently perverted against, or if you're on the sidelines looking. I'm gonna keep going. For he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. So that goes back into that concept of Romans chapter 13. That goes back into the concept of Matthew chapter 10, where you fear the person who can kill the body and the soul, not just the person who can kill the body. And in doing that, you stay where you're supposed to stay. You don't marvel and then come out of the spirit. Is it hard? Yes, because even when Mr. Godiwin had asked about being stopped, I completely forgot. It was a time where, and I wasn't stopped on the road, it was a time where a police officer came to my door. And I'm going to be real with you. It wasn't like some violent rah-rah, but it was nonsense and it was nerve-wracking. And even then, I actually called Mr. Kokovar like on the phone, like, just like as a witness. But even then, I had to work, like physically and mentally work to remain temperate. To keep that self-control and to remain where I'm supposed to remain. So you can do that. In those type of situations, let's be real. Anything else, because she's already dealing in the spirit, she ain't dealing in Christ, right? So anything else is going to stir up that spirit. Do not start, oh, I'm afraid, so now I'm going to fight back. Now you're going to get shot. And I'm not saying it's right. What I'm saying is that's the reality of it. So if you want to understand, and if it be the Lord's will, keep your life, don't marvel at the matter and then start being stupid or reasonably carnal. I get it. I understand it's reasonable, but it's still carnal, and then getting out of the flesh. And now you're fighting back. Now you're striving. Now you're being contentious. Now you're being argumentative. Now you're showing your strength because I'm disrespected, and now they're going to kill me. Well, now they're going to kill you because you didn't play the part, as it was talked about. So I just wanted to stick on that, because we don't give the Heavenly Father the faith and the mention that he deserves. We can do all things through Christ, including keeping our head on straight when it comes to a horrible situation like that. You're muted,
You're muted, brother.
Again. Okay. Very good. I've got a clip speaking about that community policing and doing good. So we're just not just doing like what Ernie said, like the media, we're just showing bad stuff.
Somebody called the police on this kid while he was looking for yard work to save up for a PlayStation. Impressed by how respectful and honest the kid was, Officer Colleran decided to buy the kid the game console he wanted. Somebody called the police on this kid while he was looking for yard work to save up for a PlayStation. Impressed by how respectful and honest the kid was, Officer Colleran decided to buy the kid the game console he wanted.
Kakumgabar, how often do police do stuff like that? Maybe not a PlayStation, but just like good things for the community.
That's more the norm than the abnormal because, okay, I said I worked in narcotics, right? So you run into a lot of people that have issues with drugs. My supervisor, I won't mention his name, but you know, one of my supervisors I talk about a lot. We had an informant that had a very promising career. He found out about her from some of us that knew her. He worked to the dickens to get this child in rehab. Got her in a rehab. She got all cleaned up, and they've been, you know, fast, furious friends ever since. Now, this was a white guy, and she was a so-called black person, right? I work with police officers that would buy kids Christmas toys, informants that we would work with, make sure that their family had groceries. I've been, you know, I remember I used to drive the soccer mom van. That was one of the best undercover cars I had. I've been with guys from different departments on different various times where I've actually taken that soccer mom van with them to the grocery store to pick groceries, to pick the groceries up to the person that we was going to pick up to work with us in our endeavors to deal with, you know, some of the drug trafficking in the area. So that's just a few things and highlights, but, you know, these things happen all the time. Even like one of the guys in the areas that I looked in the Buffalo area, that was a community police. We worked a lot of stuff together. And he was in those meetings working with the community. And sometimes we would do stuff just for just him to deal with the complaints he was getting from the community members. So, you know, a lot of that is what's being done, but the narrative is to keep the evil, you know, like especially with, you know, the media, if it bleeds, it leads. If it's a big controversy, you got to put that in there. And a lot of times you don't show the normal ongoings of what police officers actually do to help people.
Okay, nice. This next clip, we're coming quickly to our time, and we still got to go through the no shoot scenario. But I do want to look at this video. And this is around where you used to live, Umi, in Virginia. Let's have a look.
All new at 11, a Virginia state trooper is under criminal investigation over a beltway encounter you see here. It was caught on camera. The trooper is shown threatening a driver and placing him in a chokehold. John Henry took a deeper look at this video.
Take a look at me. I'm a specimen right here, buddy.
April 20, 2019. Derek Thompson is pulled over by the Virginia State Police on the Beltway in Fairfax County. Trooper Charles Hewitt arrived after VSP said another trooper noticed Thompson had an expired inspection decal with a marijuana-like odor emanating from his car.
I feel unsafe.
After multiple requests, Thompson refuses to get out of his car, so Hewitt unlocks the door. Things quickly escalate from there.
You're going to get your whooped in front of the Lord and all creation.
Hewitt counts to 3 before looking at Thompson's phone.
Watch the show. My life is in.
He then places Thompson in a chokehold before dragging him out of his car onto the road.
Sir, please get off my neck.
Now, more than a year later, that video has gone viral with the help of Thompson's attorney, Joshua Ehrlich.
Our focus at this point is making sure that Trooper Hewitt is appropriately disciplined, charged, if that's appropriate.
VSP announced Hewitt is on administrative leave. He's also the subject of a VSP criminal investigation. VSP superintendent commented Hewitt's actions were not in agreement with the established standards required of a Virginia trooper.
This is my client's worst moment. It was very hard for him to come to the decision that he wanted to go public.
Ehrlich added, police never found any drugs in his client's car.
There is no reason at all for this to have escalated in the way that it escalated.
The Virginia State Police Association has yet to respond as to whether it or Hewitt wants to comment on this case. Thompson and Hewitt's entire interaction can be found on our website, WUSA9.com. John Henry, WUSA9.
So this question is for Kakam. It's not about whether it was right or wrong. I think we all know that wasn't the right move. But people say that police don't police themselves. So in your time in the police, if you got someone who within your unit that you knew was doing bad stuff, how did you guys deal with it internally?
Just that, internally. So you have to separate, because the time that I started.
Is that all you can say? It's just internal.
No, I'm gonna tell you. The time that I was doing police work, right? That state trooper, you could tell from just the little clip and what he was dealing with. He got in his feelings, and he's losing. Once he got in his feelings, he lost. So when you're dealing with that, it was always someone like that guy around to say, hey, that's enough. Let me deal with it. That was the common sense approach, because, police officers are human too. Sometimes, we did get in our feelings. And I was just talking to the supervisor I was telling you about on the phone. We was just talking because we're still good friends. And we were talking about the things that we see and how it was always someone there to say, hey, you're going too far. That's enough. Pull back. But it's one of those things where the way I was trained is totally different. I was trained, hey, I'm officer so-and-so. Hey, can I help? Hey, do you know why I stopped you? I'm going to tell you why. When you got a person like that, I wouldn't have put hands on him as long as he wasn't a threat. I would have let him know, listen, we can stay out here as long as you think we need to stay out here. But for you, it's going to get worse the longer we stay out here. Because after 8, I get overtime. So I'm fine with you sitting in the car with the recording. What do you need me to do to make you feel comfortable? Because I'm getting paid one way or the other. At the end of this, if you make it too long, you're going to go to jail. Straight. That's what it is. So you can get a ticket, go on your way, or you can stand here and stagecoach, and we can just follow this thing out. No jumping in his face talking about I'm a specimen and this and that, put my hands around him. Long as this dude wasn't a threat, there's no need to do with all that, because you're getting paid. And then you're going to get overtime. So why are you going to be dealing with that if it goes longer? But the thing about it is like I say, now you don't see that demeanor with police that's willing to de-escalate, because that's what I was trained to always de-escalate. A lot of times, and I'm being very critical of modern policing, I don't know if the psychologicals they're doing or what they're doing, training from the Mossad or whatever, but they escalate way too much than is necessary.
Okay, anyone else want to join in on that? Well, obviously, nobody else is police. I'm not going to tell you what we do in the Army.
Oh, in the Army, it's a whole different thing. I've seen the MPs, bro, in the military. It's a whole different thing.
But do you think there should be some kind of punishment for police that act crazy like that? Anyone can join in.
Yeah,
Keep in mind, we've got we still got our last part to do with shoot, no shoot.
Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah, there should be, but there are always two sides to every situation. And I certainly wouldn't say anything different than what
we're trying to say. We didn't see the whole video.
Well, I mean,
could I say this, Ernie?
Yeah.
You know what? You're right about that. But the police, they should be held to a way higher standard than Johnny Civilian.
Yeah.
See, what that guy was doing, he was stooping down to that level of what? Just pettiness and ego. And that you can't have that when you out doing the policing thing. Go ahead, Doc.
No, I completely agree with you, and thanks for saying that, because the two sides that I was referring to is one is, first and foremost, we have to be mindful of our situation ourselves, and I'm going to read to that effect. I'm going to read Romans 12 and 17 through 19. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you. Live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. So on one hand, and I'll tell a quick story after this about my own experience with something a little similar, but on one hand, you don't know who you're going to run into. You don't know what kind of spirit is on any police officer that pulls you over. And so it's always good to be respectful. And again, if someone says, hey, I smell marijuana in your car, and you don't have any, then, there shouldn't be an issue if they, but then again, you have to know your rights, but that's a whole nother conversation. So you have to know who you're dealing with. And not only should police officers know and fall back on their training as to how not to escalate things, but it's important for us to know to not escalate things as well. And so when I was married, ex-wife and I went to Walmart. There was a power outage in the parking lot, and so the whole parking lot was dark, and so parking was a mess. And so we're like trying to find a place to park, and we parked somewhere where we thought we're not blocking anybody in. Went into Walmart, came out, and we're trying to find our car because it's still kind of dark out there. I think they got one light working in the parking lot. And so we got back to our car, and there were these two women. There was a police officer, and we're about to get in our car, and the women are like, there they are. And so we're like, hey, we didn't know we blocked you in. We couldn't see, the lights were out, etc. And so the police officer was like, well, you guys blocked them in, etc. So my wife, ex-wife, in all her wisdom, is like trying to get in the face of the police officer. And I'm like, whoa, calm down. And I had to put her behind me and ask her to be quiet. And so I then dealt with the police officer. I said, we had no idea. We're very sorry. Sorry, to the ladies. Yes, officer, I completely understand. Because I want to go home at the end of the day. All right. I don't want to sit in jail at the end of the day. So not only do you have to know who you're dealing with, but we have to act in accordance to the scriptures and not escalating things ourselves. But sometimes we don't have any control over the police officer. The only one we have control over is us.
Right. Anyone else?
Two things.
Go ahead.
Two things that come to mind. When looking at that video that was based in Virginia about the young man interacting with the police officer and how he was pulled out of his car, I want to read Ecclesiastes chapter 3. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the sun, under the heaven. And the scriptures go further to give illustrations of when it is time to do certain things and when it is time to not do certain things. As it pertains to the video that you just showed, brother, and I'm not blaming the young brother, but one thing that we have to keep in mind, you have to observe the time, you have to observe the situation, you have to observe yourself. Just because you know that the police is out of pocket, he's violating your rights, that might, in that particular instance right there, might not be the time to say, well, you violating my rights, or you doing this, or you doing this, which is against the law. Observe the times, know when and know when not to. In that very instance, not the time for you to argue your case. You go to court and argue your case then. He's already in the good because he was recording. So young man was always in the good. He was already recording. So let the footage of what he recorded, let that stand against him in the court of law. But to try to argue your case and show that you know more than the officer in that particular instance might not be the most fruitful or most prudent thing to do. Also, this is the book of Philippians chapter 2. Number start at verse 15, but the point, excuse me, I'm sorry, verse 14, but the point is in verse 15. Do all things without murmurings and disputings, that ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of God, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world. The relevance of what I'm reading here is that we have to make sure that when we're interacting with law enforcement officials, that we try and strive as hard as we can to be blameless and harmless. The reason why we try for that, so that there can be nothing that can be mounted, or some type of complaint, or some type of infraction that can be mounted against us in whatever court of law that we find ourselves in, if we have to face a judge.
And I think Kakumgabar described it perfectly when giving that advice as a stop. But I'll read the scriptures. Matthew 5:25, it says, agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou in the way. I guess that's you at the traffic stop, lest at any time thy adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. So it just agree, just comply. You said, Kakumgabar, don't try to litigate it on the side of the road. You deal with that in court. So, hey, get out of the car. You get out of the car. Give me your driver's license. I know my rights. Like, we're under these curses in captivity in different places, and we have to be mindful of that. And I think everyone's given a very good description of how we're supposed to act and carry ourselves according to the scriptures. And from what I'm hearing, everybody that's done that, they've had a good experience with the police. But we want to get into this shoot, no shoot, because this is a big thing with Black people being shot, they're getting shot, and we're looking at it from the perspective of the police, what they have to go through as police officers.
Officers in the city go through in some tense, high-pressure situations. ABC 2 News' Skylar Henry spoke to some of the participants who say they now have a newfound respect for what police do day in and day out.
After going through this simulator myself, I can tell you that it's very intense tonight. The public had an opportunity to see what it's like to step in the shoes of a police officer.
Drop your weapon. For Dwayne Elmore, the experience was surreal.
My stress levels, you feel it building up, you feel your heart pacing, even though it's just a scenario, it's on the screen, but it feels real.
Elmore and about 30 others took part in Baltimore Police's virtual simulator, giving people a chance to see what officers go through on potentially drawing a weapon.
In those 2 seconds, you have to make a decision on, whether someone's going to harm you or harm someone else.
Commissioner Kevin Davis says he wanted to give the public a chance to go through the simulator, an intense test of communication, reflexes, and accuracy.
We do it just so folks can have a glimpse of what it's like to make that split-second decision. And it's the ultimate split-second decision, right? So the decision that you make to potentially take someone's life.
There were 13 police-involved shootings in the city last year.
When you're under that level of stress, even in a simulated mock environment, your heart rate still goes up. You start to breathe a little heavier. You get a little tunnel vision.
You really don't know what's going through the officer's mind.
It's a test people say they're happy to take part in, especially Elmore, who's looking to become an officer himself.
I thought it would be a great opportunity to see some of the scenarios that they go through and a little advancement on their training.
Now, the police department tells me they don't get to do this too often, but when they do, it's an opportunity to create more transparency with the community and obviously better community police involvement. Reporting in Baltimore, Skylar Henry, ABC 2 News.
Okay, Kakumgabar, shoot.
Police department.
Shoot, no shoot scenarios. Have you had that training?
Yes, I have. I've had that training.
And, how was it?
What's that now?
No, go ahead.
No, I said I had that training. I went to, because I was in narcotics, I was selected to go to HIDA school where we had those kind of scenarios. It's high intensive drug training area training down in New York City at the what is that? The Battery Island, Battery something. They're out there. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. In the Bronx, I think it is. Anywhere, Brooklyn one. I mean, those are very, intense training, but I've been in the real situations where I've had to not shoot. Gun drawn, not shoot. So, there's something, and brothers and sisters that's around me know I don't go around talking about, my law enforcement career, war stories. Most of the things that I share with y'all is stuff that we end up laughing, the comical stuff that happened. But there's been times where, I've had to draw my gun and talk people down or walking in on somebody or doing a search warrant. That's why we stopped that Cavalier Cowboy method of search warrants, and we started getting the professional SWAT teams to do our search warrants because we were running into too many situations where we bust through the door with a ram and the guy is sitting there with a 223 weapon, whether it be a AR-15 or something else. So you do run through those scenarios, and you have to fight. My Marine Corps instruction is shoot them all and let God sort them out. But you can't have that mindset, when you're in civilian policing. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to really, really be cognizant of and remind yourself every day. When I was a supervisor, we would go out on our street ops every day. See, that was a particular unit I worked in. We went out and dealt with drug trafficking every day. It wasn't like we was just working. If we weren't working a big case, we was out on doing street ops. But I would tell them, look, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Because these baby kids, they don't have no kind of understanding. They just crazy. A lot of them on drugs, been on the mental bending, mind built-in, ADD, HD, whatever TT drugs, right? So we have to remind ourselves of that. So those things are good for training. But you know what? Nothing is like the real deal situation. So fortunately, and I say this, I've never had to dispatch a person. A couple of animals here and there. Come close a couple of times, but I never had to actually kill a person.
All praises. Okay, that being said, now for everybody else, it's no questions, but pick a number between 1 and 4. You got, okay, Zoc got 2.
I'm going to say 4.
3. Okay, 4. So Zoc said 2. Umi said 3, and Ernie said 4. So now Kakumgabar, they're actually going to take part in a little scenario. So anything you want to tell them what to expect, they're going to take part in a shoot, no shoot scenario. So I'll know what you guys are going to say, bam, boom, shoot, or whatever. But it's going to be a scenario, just like how those people. You want to give them anything that they should look out for to shoot or not to shoot?
Keep your eyes open. Be alert.
Okay. Zoc, I guess it's you that's going to go first. And will you pick 2?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2.
Yes, I did. I picked 2.
Okay, here we go. Number 2 scenario coming up. And I guess it's a police officer, and he's going to stop a fight. You're the police officer. 2 police officers. You're there with your partner. Y'all got a report of a fight, and you're going to stop a fight. There's been no report of any weapons. It's just a fight.
Okay.
Here we go. Now it's a shoot, no shoot scenario. So you gotta let us know if you shoot and when you shoot. Here we go. Or you don't shoot. Good job.
Wait, but he got shot first.
The video it kind of skipped on me a little bit. You know, I see. In other words, from what I saw the officer put himself between the two persons that are supposedly fighting, and then split second later, I see someone, you know, or the aftermath of somebody falling to the ground. So
you were dead.
Well, your partner's dead.
Oh, you got shot? Okay.
No, your partner's dead.
Oh.
And then obviously you shot the guy afterwards. So Kakam, what happened in that situation?
Well, I think, you know, one thing that the one officer did, put himself in between the guys, because the way I was trained, even if they fighting and they going at it, you do not jump in.
Mm-hmm.
Like my senior man told me, you wait till the pause come, because they'll tire themselves out. Then that's when you start speaking, right? So I never really jumped in to grab people in that kind of scenario situation without being kind of alert that see if they got a knife, gun, whatever. You understand? So that it kind of got the situation where the way in my training, I would not have put myself in that compromising position.
Okay. So now is Umi. Umi, yours is you got an officer down. The suspect does have a gun and a hostage. So it's a shoot, no shoot scenario. Here we go. So Kakunga Ball, what happened there?
She's dead. You know, it's kind of hard for them because they're not looking for, you know, somebody breaking away and doing something. Because, you know, but that's, you know, believe it or not, it happens faster than that. You know what I mean? In real life, in real time.
So I have a question. Just looking at the video, who got shot and who ran away?
You got to believe. I mean, you should have explained it to him. What you're seeing is the view of the officer that's there, right? So the other officer is your partner that you see. So the camera view is you, what you're looking at, right?
Yep.
So when you see someone to break away or something, you're seeing them, and that's what you're supposed to respond to.
But I didn't know who was the one that ran away and who was the one that got shot. In this
That was a hostage.
Right.
The hostage ran away?
Yeah, the police shot the aggressor.
Right.
Okay.
Or the assailant. They shot him in the head.
Right.
With 2 shots. I mean,
it's a pretty good shot too.
So it wasn't you or your partner that shot the perpetrator. It was
no. Yeah, it was you.
It was you that shot him.
Okay.
It's kind of difficult to do it from this aspect because when you're doing the training, you actually have a gun that's got blanks in it, and then it's got like you shooting a screen, and so it's a shoot no shoot scenario. Is where is it a situation where you shoot, or is it a situation where you don't shoot? And I'll give you an example. When I did the training, one of them was a no shoot. It was a guy. He had a hostage, his wife or girlfriend, and he had a machete. And he's got it like this. It's like, okay, do you shoot him or you got to try to talk him down? So the thing is, you got to try to talk him down because you shoot, it may hit the person he got.
Right.
So he was like this. And then it's like, okay, I talked him down and he put it down. There was another case where it was a bank robbery. You go into a bank robbery, and that's where immediately I shot the 2 brothers. I mean, like, yeah, y'all up to no good. And they was like, pow, pow. And then the white girl came out. It was, oh, damn, the white girl. Like, pow, pow, pow. So that, and it's like you don't really have time to think about it. It happens like that. So this is your scenario, Ernie. Is it shoot, no shoot? Are you gonna shoot? So this is a report that they've seen somebody with a gun. So you know they've got a gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Similar, but not the same. So you gotta let us know if you shoot or you don't shoot within this video.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Put that gun down. Put it down. Look for me. Missouri City? That's here in Houston. What's that guy got in his hand?
What happened?
He got preoccupied with the one and wasn't paying attention to the other one. And the other guy took him out.
In the background.
Yeah, you didn't see the guy at all.
Ernie, did you see the guy in the background?
I did, and initially I couldn't. It almost looked like another police officer. So it was me, the camera view. It was my partner who was taking care of the woman, and then there was the other guy behind the brick wall or behind the brick partition. He almost looked like a police officer, but now that we established that he wasn't, I would have told the other. So there's the guy that's laying on the ground, assuming he's injured, shot, dead, or whatever. The other person behind the wall, it's like, come out and put your hands up or get on the ground. You know, and if he didn't do that, and if he had a gun, then unfortunately, if he didn't put the gun down, you'd have to shoot him.
Yeah, in those situations, I just explained some of my military police training. You have to rule out everybody as a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, okay, what are you doing over there? What are you doing back there? And it's like, okay, come over here. I've got my gun. Like, why you put your gun on me?
Yeah,
because I don't know what you're doing. I've got to eliminate you as a suspect. Get over here. I'm going to pat you down. And part of our training was that we had to go to a fight. And of course, two of our people in our platoon, in our company, was acting as, you know, the people that's in the fight. So it's like the one guy who was the aggressor, we arrested him, handcuffed him, and then we got the other guy who's beat up. Mm-hmm. We're taking him back as a witness, but nobody searched him. And what did he do? He pulled the gun, and then, you know, mock shot up the police station.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to rule out, oh, you in a fight? Okay, you might have been the person beat up, but we still got to check you, pat you down, make sure we rule you out and you're safe.
Right.
So, Kakam, what happened in that scenario?
Just what you just said.
Is that true?
That is true. You have to go through and make, if you, they show it on cop shows a lot. Like if they bust in a house or something like that, and I'm pretty sure you guys see this in cop shows. Is there anybody else here? Who's else in the house? Who's else in the house? Because you have to clear your environment, whether it be a house, a yard, or whatever, to make sure that you're safe so that you can handle the business or deal with the problem at hand. And also, when you do the initial like takedown, you do a quick pat frisk to make sure the person doesn't have weapons. Then you make sure when you cuff them, usually in the back, so they have limited movement. And if they did have something that you missed or they want to take off running, it kind of limits their mobility, you know, if you will. Yeah. So a lot of that, what you're saying, Adai, when the training is true about, you know, even like, when you get a little more control of the situation, you have to do a more thorough frisk to make sure that no drugs or contraband or anything like that is being dumped in your police car and so on and so forth. Those are the kind of things that you have to pay attention to. But without training, it's kind of hard to understand that. But the purpose of those videos when you deal with civilians is to give them to understand Monday night quarterbacking in these scenarios is not something that you really can like attribute to a situation and judging it, because these things happen in milliseconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You muted.
You muted.
What I said, God willing, we're gonna have to get the Kings and Priests crew on the real shoot no shoot software. So maybe we can find someone, maybe we could come to bar, could talk to local police, and we can actually do that. But what I want to do is, because I know that
well, I've seen some of you guys shoot.
Movie's like, what the heck?
So I see some of you guys shoot. I just keep that to myself about the shoot.
Well, we're wrapping up the show, but I know that you've got a new show out that you're doing called The Graybeards, and I just want to show a clip from that.
I want the joy of life of having a. I'm not delusional with this. You can't tell me nothing I don't already know. You can't make me feel bad about nothing that I am and what I want to be. So it's like, what are you saying?
You're a confident woman.
A very confident woman.
I love it.
Yeah.
So that's the confidence in someone, and the scriptures talk about it. I want to deal with some of how we got here, though, because the scriptures talk about that abstinent heart is harder than what's the adamant rock, right? One of the hardest surfaces in the earth. But you notice at the end, this man that's giving you the illusion as a woman said, can't nobody tell me nothing. Hey.
So, Kakam, you want to tell us a little bit about the Graybeard show and where people can watch it?
Yes, I will. Giving all praises for the plug, because I didn't even think about doing it. What we're going to be dealing with is we have an assembled cast of experienced seasoned men, all with beards like mine. As a matter of fact, you saw my brother Josiah in there with the master Graybeard beard. What we're going to be dealing with is we're going to bring the understanding, civility back to understanding and common sense and spiritual insight to things that we see going on in the world. This particular episodes that's coming up next week and the week after is going to be dealing with transgenderism, and we're going to look at that from a spiritual standpoint based on the word of the Most High God. The shows are not going to be aired on YouTube and Facebook. They're going to be on Rumble. Our Rumble channel is rumble.com/C/Graybeards. And on X at x.com/The Graybeards. So those are going to be airing on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you take the time out to chime in and look at it. And they'll also be archived on those platforms as well.
Yeah, we'll put the links in the description so people can go and find it. So, Kakam Gabar, final words for the show, any advice for brothers and sisters?
It's a Proverbs 11:3. It says, the integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. So what we as a people have to understand is that whatever endeavor we are, whether police officer, civilian, military, banking, teaching, whatever endeavor that you're into, you have to make sure that you deal with the integrity of the Most High as is taught, thus saith the Lord, and walk in that. Anything else is perverse, and that's going to be the destruction. So you want to know how to escape or to avoid the penalty of the curses that we under is deal with the upright integrity according to the Most High and walk in it. That's that.
Well, we give all praises to the Most High in Christ. We thank the brother Kakamubal for coming on the show. And Lord's will, we're going to have him back for anything policing. But we give all praises to the Most High in Christ from all of us, Kings and Priest crew. Until next time, we say shalom.
Shalom, everybody.
Hey, shalom all.